The Apartment Gurus podcast is brought to you by Greenlight Equity Group, an apartment acquisitions and holdings firm co-founded by Carl York and Tate Siemer, host of this show. We offer you the opportunity to be an owner of cash-flowing, wealth-growing apartments without the headaches of being a landlord. These assets are recession-resistant, risk-mitigated, offer significant tax advantages, and are a great alternative to the stock market. Ready to check it out? Go to www.investwithgreenlight.com today to book a personal consultation with Carl or Tate. Again, that's investwithgreenlight.com. We look forward to meeting you. Welcome to The Apartment Gurus, where twice a week, host Tate Siemer brings you deep dive interviews with the wisest gurus in the apartment investing industry. These experts are sure to create game-changing value and inspiration designed to catapult your business to the next level. Be sure to reach out to Tate at www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. And now, here is Tate Siemer and the Apartment Gurus.
Welcome, everybody, back. Another episode of the Apartment Gurus podcast. Man, we were just talking offline, Madhavi Jain is my guest today. I'm super excited for her to share her magic with all you guys. But we were just talking, we're over 230 episodes here on the Apartment Gurus podcast. And just so grateful for all the contributors and guests along the way. I love doing this podcast, as many of you probably have heard me talk about in the past. I honestly don't think I could have done it for 3 years and this many episodes if I didn't truly love it. And, again, for me, like the true payoff and, like bliss that I get out of it, quite frankly, is the connections that I get to make, obviously for myself with these wonderful guests, but also connecting you guys with these wonderful guests. And we always share how to get in touch with them, how to, they'll have, something to share with you in the way of something valuable and, some sort of asset that you can download or something along those lines. It's just hopefully you guys feel the same, that this is a pretty high level platform that we've co-created here with the guests, and the level of exchange and of ideas and inspiration is, for me, it makes it such a wonderful endeavor, and I just love doing it. Just coming back for those of you that may or may not know, we're mid-October of 2023 here as we record this, and just getting back from a week-long trip. The first 4 days were in New Orleans, Louisiana, my first time ever there. And that was a Raise Masters mastermind retreat. And I've talked a lot about Raise Masters on the show, mainly because I'm a member, and a lot of the guests recently have been connections that I've made through Raise Masters with really high level capital raisers and real estate entrepreneurs, people that are doing big things, raising tens, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars for funds and big projects. And this retreat, guys, was just, I can't wait to hear your reflections on it, Madhavi. But
absolutely,
just such a, it's kind of hard to put into words, like the amount of value that these sorts of events offer. In this case, I think there were about 150 of us there. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, it seemed like more though.
Yeah, maybe 200 even. But this isn't like a conference, so to speak, where you register for 3 days, you go meet people, hear speakers, etc. There's all of those elements were there, but this is a group that we're all members of on an ongoing basis. So we see each other on meetings very, very frequently. We are on the same Slack channel together, so we're constantly communicating. And so this event was like nurturing existing relationships and connections with people that you may have just bumped into a few times online or whatever in a meeting. And, getting that face to face, you just can't beat it. Our guru in that group, his name's Hunter Thompson. A lot of you probably have read his book or, seen him speak or whatever. He's tremendous. And he talks about how in the investor space, an investor is 2.5 to 3.5 times more likely to invest with you if you have met them in person and shaken their hand. And, and that's true, I think, of any, the power of any face-to-face meeting and connection, whether that's, potential co-GP, capital raiser that you might partner with, obviously limited partner type investor and partners, et cetera. Just kind of the list goes on and on. So, Madhavi and I have known each other and have connected prior to this trip, this retreat, but we got to meet in person and obviously we both, she's got a wonderful podcast called Think Outside the Stocks, which I can't wait to talk to you about, especially
absolutely
given today's stock market. So we both were like, obviously we love our podcasts and we're like, we got to get each other on each other's podcasts. So that's what we're doing today. So with all that, Madhavi, first of all, just super excited to have you on the show. Super excited to have you in my network, and really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, same here, Tate. And, a few of the things that you said are so spot on, especially meeting in person, right? COVID has created this virtual world for us. We have gotten geographically flat over the period of time. But there is nothing that can beat that virtual, that one-on-one connection, right? When you actually meet people one-on-one. A few of the people I met during Days Masters, and it was just last weekend. It's not been too long.
Right.
A few of them, I felt like that I've known them for a really long time. And to meet in person, people like you, and to connect and to actually see why we resonate with each other, that's really important. And first of all, kudos to you. Congratulations on how far your podcast has come in.
Thank you.
You are a true inspiration. And I love what you just said, that it's about making connections, it's about having these conversations, and it's kind of making those friendships. You're having that, casual dialogue, you kind of have that conversation, share problems and share some of these intimate things. And also to the listeners, right? We are in their ears when they're taking their dog for a walk, when they're taking their kids to a soccer game. So I think it's kind of that three-way connection, even if that third party is virtual and we don't see them. But that's how I feel about my connections with my podcast too. So thank you so much for inviting me on yours. And let's see how we can add value to your listeners today.
Yeah. And I think just to kind of summarize the point you just made, or to zoom out a second, I've said it over and over again on this podcast, and other people have said it in different ways. This is a long game relationship space, and it's a long game relationship game. Like, relationships are the capital in this space, and you are not, this is not a transactional space. A lot of us are coming from the single family world, which is very transactional. And what I mean by that is, you're typically dealing with somebody one time on one deal, and you get that deal done, you move on to the next one. A lot of people are solopreneurs in that space. Carl and I, my partner and I, were a partnership, but nonetheless, we were working pretty much in isolation as far as other partnerships and whatnot. And, so it was very transactional, right? That's what I mean by transactional. In this commercial space and multifamily space that I'm in here, it's relational. It's very, very relational, because you're dealing with, often tens of millions of dollars, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars. You're dealing with other people's money, their life savings. You're dealing with, assets that need to, business plans for the assets that need to hit right, and so all of those things are products of great relationships and, building those long-term relationships. Like, the second half of my trip that I won't get into too much today was a market visit to our Columbus, Ohio market. And we're solidifying. We just onboarded a new property manager on one of our Class A assets there. And they're coming on board on 2 acquisitions we're currently working on. And we are thrilled with them. They're kind of one of the pieces we've been kind of missing, honestly, in that market, which is just a very, very, very high end, pro sharp property management group. And that's, we can go on and on about how you're only as good as your property manager when it comes to implementing a business plan, and like how important that is, right? But no, I'd love for you to share, Madhavi, kind of your journey, kind of to where you are today, and obviously want to know all about what you're doing today, and with the exciting stuff you're working on. But love to hear kind of a little backstory and color into what made you who you are today.
Absolutely. And I think I completely agree with you on the connection side. This is a long game. And I feel like ever since I have been in this field of investments, right, the commercial real estate investments, I felt like, my family has grown. But going back to the family, right, I come from, I'm basically an immigrant to this country, right? Mm-hmm. Some 20 plus years ago, I came to this country with 2 suitcases and a couple of $100 converted dollars. And, this story you might have heard and your listeners might have heard, especially when you're talking to immigrants. And that's why I say that we all have uncommonly common story. There's bits and pieces in our story which are so unique, but people find that correlation and that relativity, and that's what makes us human, because in bits and pieces we have kind of lived into everybody's life. So I believe in that strongly, and that's why what you and me are doing to bring that change in people's life, right? That's why it's so important. So going back to this, coming to this country, right? Can you believe 9,000 miles away from my roots, from the city that I was born? This was absolutely a new field for me, and we started from scratch.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up? In
India, definitely in India, in a small city called Pune. I don't know, Bombay is quite often a known city, which is a couple of hours drive from my city. Okay. Never wanted to leave my city, by the way. I always would say to my mom that I want to get married here, stay here forever. And there I am, 9,000 miles away from it now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when did you make the transition overseas?
So 2000 is when we actually went to London. We worked there for about a year. Okay. And then went back, and within 3 weeks, we got this project. Both of us, we were in IT industry. My husband got the project in US. So he literally, started in 3 days after we went back from London, which was quite an interesting story. And I joined him after 3 weeks. So I came to this country as a dependent visa, which, I don't know if you are familiar with the immigration cycle, but those who have been gone through it, they would realize that getting that H4, that's dependent visa, transferred to H1, which is the work visa, is absolute nightmare. And, I feel fortunate enough that I could get that transition. But quite honestly, many folks from my country, from other countries, especially the housewives, they could not even get transferred, and they are engineers and they have done masters. Wow. They just couldn't work in this country because of the visa issues and lost the confidence. And, one of those things that is very close to my heart is to impact their lives with this alternate investments too. Yeah. So I feel fortunate enough that, yes, I did get through it. Got a job, one of the top 5 consulting companies, IT industry. I worked in project management most of the time in this country.
Where were you guys where were you guys based when you moved over here?
In Sacramento, actually, in California.
And you're still there?
No, actually, we moved in Austin. That's just quite an interesting story. Yeah. But let me start in Sacramento. We purchased this house, and this I'm talking about, we purchased it probably 2005, 2006, right? So we purchased this house. I had our first child. The typical American dream, right? That there is home, there is American citizen kids, there is a car, and it feels like, okay, we are living an American dream. But then 2008 happened, right? 2008, it happened to many of us. We were not diversified at all. We had that house, and rest of the money was either in 401k stock market, right? So heavily invested in the stock market, some savings. But during that time, quite interestingly, me and my husband, we worked together for 13 years on the same projects. And there are advantages to it, but the disadvantage was that one day in 2008, we got called in the office, team meeting, and said that next Friday is going to be your last day on the project.
Wow.
So, in IT terms, that means if we don't find a project in another 2 weeks, then we are losing our jobs. And this is right when I was about to give birth to my second child.
Wow.
So you can imagine the intense amount of stress and pressure we went through. And that's how actually we moved. I mean, I went ahead and went on a maternity leave, gave birth to my second child, my son. My husband went on paternity leave, so we kind of could extend those 2 weeks period. But then he got a job in Austin. He started traveling. And eventually we moved our family from California to Austin. And during that time, the house was white elephant. We were getting, I think our mortgage was about $3,500 and we were getting a rent about $1,700. So talk about upside down. That was a huge upside down.
Yeah.
So that, 2008 impacted us a lot. We lost a lot of equity in that house too. But we, restarted from scratch second time around in here in Texas. And I got a job again. I'm in top 5 consulting, both of us working again, 2 kids, purchased a house here. Another second version of, American Dream, the American Dream 2.0. But then, things keep on happening, right? 2015, by this time, my health was deteriorating so much that I just couldn't go to work, like physically couldn't go to work. And that's when I had to kind of cut that card and just take a break from my 6-figure earning corporate world. And you and me we are in real estate. We kind of see quite often that people in W-2 start creating this passive income and then leave their W-2. But imagine for me, I left my job and now I have to start in the reverse way. Especially with my kids' education coming around the corner, right? College education is not easy in this country. So that's when I started delving into real estate. And you can imagine, 2008, the big punch in the gut was the real estate. So both of us were really, really reluctant. It was like a family thing to even be ready and to move into it. I think we took a couple of years to even get ready about real estate.
How you're in IT, your husband's in IT as well at that point?
Absolutely. So he's still in IT. He's still on his W-2.
Okay. So where did the real estate inspiration come from? Was it books, podcasts, somebody else in your life doing it?
Yeah, I was very, very desperate to kind of start this reverse way because I've completely lost that 6-figure income, right?
Yeah.
So got to start something, and I wanted something that was passive because my health was still an issue and my health is still an issue. So was looking for something passive that I don't have to physically go and do it, right? So there was this the seminar, those typical seminars that they call you for $99 and learn everything about real estate, like Drive for Dollars and Tax Lien and this and that, with big names in the industry. And so I think it was either free or $99. And I went in, and the first thing that after 10-15 minutes, they start talking about how you can extend your credit limit on your credit card and how you can pay for this one and only 30,000-40,000 coaching program to teach you everything, and you will be making basically 10x that money within a year. Right. And I just didn't like that, the whole, being the salesman and being pushy about. And there are so many people in front of me were actually calling their credit card companies and extending their limits and putting that money down payment for the coaching program. So I just didn't feel that's the right way of doing it. Researched a lot, and I thought, okay, rental real estate seemed to be the passive income, right? By the tax code even.
Yeah.
So started with rental real estate, and we did some of the strategies, had some savings, purchased our first house, an Airbnb, a short-term rental, and then did some maybe a home equity loan, purchased another one. So we kind of started creating the rental portfolio. But then the lessons learning happen in the rental portfolio as well. I think a lot of listeners here, they are very fascinated by that rental real estate being a landlord because there is a direct control in it. And it seems like, okay, I am in control. Whenever I want to exit, I can exit. But technically, even though if you have that control, you cannot really exit when you want to exit, right? That's the limitation.
Yeah.
And the three T's of the rental real estate: the tenant, toilet, and trash.
Yeah.
Till you get hit by that, till everything is going on well, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But you just get to have that one bad tenant or two bad tenants, and that's exactly what happened with me.
Are these all single family assets at this point?
Single family, absolutely.
Yep.
And gorgeous assets around my city in Austin. And one of these tenants one day complains about something, and we just happened to okay, we're just gonna go look at it, right? And I walk in, the door opens, and the house reeks of pet urine. And this wall to wall. I mean, have you seen those shows on TV, The Hoarders?
Well, yeah. Not only have I seen the shows, but I mean, we flipped single family houses for
oh my gosh,
10 years plus. So yes, I've seen them in person too. It's unreal.
Yes, and that's exactly what this beautiful property, and that's exactly what this house was. And he was literally collecting the pet litter in front of us so that we could walk on the carpet.
Wow.
One of the room, the carpet was ripped, and they was literally staying on the foundation, which was a senior citizen, by the way. So I was, I mean, I felt so disgusted by it. I had to come back home and take bath twice, so I couldn't even walk in that house.
Wow.
So we gave them a notice. We evicted them. They went out. We had to spend. Hold on a second. So they left. They left the house, and the house felt like it's exactly the same. It's wall to wall things in it, right? We changed the locks. Next day, they break in from the back door.
Oh my gosh.
To pick up something else because obviously they forgot something, right?
Right.
But interestingly, we had to spend $5,000 and tons of trash just taking out this, and trips to the dump yard. Of course, we hired a contractor. He charged about, I got quotes anything between 10,000 to 5,000. I picked up somebody who was 5,000.
Yeah.
And he charged us 5,000 just to take his stuff outside of the house.
Wow.
And another 15,000 to bring this house to its glory so somebody else could actually live into it. So that was my experience. And then I really started thinking about that. This is not scalable at all. And this is definitely not passive. So I started attending the real estate meetup here in Austin. I was quite accidentally at one of the real estate meetup, which talked about mostly single family, wholesaling, fix and flip, that kind of investments. And somebody was sitting next to me and he was like, oh, have you come to this meetup, which is on Tuesday? And this is a great meetup in Austin on Tuesdays, still going on. And he was like, I run this meetup. Would you like to come to it? And I was like, what is it about? And this is the first time, by the way, I heard the word multifamily. And he said multifamily. And I was like, I'm not sure what multifamily is. Is it multiple families staying together or something? It was hilarious, right? So he said that here's a book, some book about multifamily. Just go read it. And I ordered that tonight, that same night. This was on Thursday. And next Tuesday, I showed up at that meetup. I had read that entire book. It was an eye opener for me. I was mind blown, and I felt kind of cheated that so in my immediate circle, people would have been investing in apartments and especially syndications, and I didn't know about it. That was kind of really, that made me restless. And I come from that immigrant community. I come from that tech community, and just knowing that, so people would have known about this, and they have been raising their kids, and two people earning, busy professionals. I myself was putting about 60 hours of work week, right? So I felt very, very restless, and that's when, even though I wanted to stay in the passive real estate, even with syndication. And I started with investing in passively in syndication. I just decided to switch into being active so that I could really educate people about this syndicated real estate investments. And, I know we talked about the infinite banking. That was another strategy. I was actually quite reluctant about it. And I understand your reluctance too, because I was so super skeptical about it too.
Yeah.
And when I'm super skeptical about it, I go to my numbers, my spreadsheets. I love that. And I kind of kept on creating those scenarios, and I kind of proved myself wrong in the infinite banking system. So I took that also to my heart, and I'm like, okay, so I need to bring these two strategies to my investors' life, educate them, because things can get complicated in either of this world. People who understand the infinite banking don't understand the real estate realm. People who understand real estate realm are not familiar with infinite banking, and they kind of feel that it's very complex area. So being in a very peculiar position, understanding both these worlds and kind of being an expert at it, and numbers being my friends, I feel that I'm in a position to help investors, syndicators, even the infinite banking experts, to kind of do a mix and match of all these strategies. Because what I essentially believe is compounding your dollar. You make it work really, really hard, so you can continuously create that compounded generational wealth for your family.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. So much, and so many great takeaways there too. I mean, just your grit and your tenacity of, and your adaptability too, of, being able to pivot from a W-2 that, I'm sure was probably feeling pretty secure and safe to you at that point, because you had lots of experience in it, but honoring your health and the requirements around that, and creating a whole new career path and business for yourself, and going, and not only that, but just that no matter how you do it, and no matter who you are, the transition from the W-2 mentality and like paradigm to the entrepreneurial paradigm and mentality, the mindset shifts that need to go along with that. Like, that's huge. And, kudos to you for being able to do all that with kids and, your husband's work and everything you had going on, and, going out and figuring out how to make it happen for yourself. It's a great story.
Thank you so much, Tate. I really appreciate that. And you're right. I mean, there's a lot of inertia. And I see people who are working that W-2 income, right? There's an inertia, even if they are kind of handcuffed by their limitations. And I see myself, my story, my health being my handcuffs. I see all the time people have their own handcuffs. And that's why I encourage them that challenge that inertia. You are destined for something much bigger, and you can only do that if you challenge that inertia. Otherwise, you will never know.
I like that inertia. That's the word. That's the word. It's a good word, because in essence, it's like you work yourself into security, and like and by the way, I should be using air quotes around security, because in my opinion, there's nothing secure about having a W-2 job. In fact, I think it's less secure and less self-determining, of course, way less self-determining, because you could lose that W-2 in, walking into work one morning and boom, it's over. Right. And that happens all the time especially now in this economy, in this world. And so, this whole idea that you have a job and you're working for somebody, it makes you more like secure in life. To me, that's very, very debatable, especially if you are a naturally wired entrepreneur, or at least can kind of learn it all and get into that mode and learn, become a wired entrepreneur. The opportunities around owning your own business of any kind, in this country, especially, are just huge. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because if you're listening to this show, you've already got the entrepreneurial vision bug. Yeah, I'm sure you do. But there's there probably aren't too many W-2 type folks on here. And by the way, nothing I'm not being critical at all. And I know that Madhavi is not being critical either here of anybody in a W-2. It's a completely honorable, respectable way to go in life. And, and I really believe that some of us are very much naturally wired as more employee type folks and, helper, service oriented, et cetera, need direction and want to be part of a machine, if you will. And that's great. And it takes all kinds, right? But I also believe that there's those of us that are just naturally wired entrepreneurs, and that's who this show's for, obviously. And but I mean, did it come naturally to you that transition, or did that just feel really scary and weird, or both?
So one of the things that you said here is really, really important, right? You talk about the W-2 security, right? You're so spot on about it that there's nothing secure about it, because when you lose the job, you actually lose in the worst times. Recession is the time when you're going to lose that. And that's exactly what happened in my story too, right? We both of us lost our project at the same time. Imagine we have this house, we are immigrants, not even green card in this country, about to give birth to second child. So we have responsibility of the first child. So it just happens at the wrong time. At the same time, I'm not critical about it at all. I, from my consulting world, I got tremendous amount of grooming. So salute to that. What I am today and what I could do in my real estate world is because of that grooming, right? Yeah. And you asked me a question about that. Did it come to me naturally? No, it did not. But I think just the kind of person I am, I'm a very purpose-driven person. And since I look at that purpose, what drives me, and that's what I challenge people who are so comfortable in W-2 as well, right? That I ask them quite often that, whatever you're doing, are you going to start feeling dry doing it already, or either next 3 to 5 years? And if that's going to happen, that's not the right thing for you. If you're already feeling dry, that's not about you, right? Yeah. So I talk about even people in IT professionals who are dreaming of, creating a restaurant because they are a great cook, or, going a spiritual path. Yeah. In our community, there's a lot of that, or just going hiking constantly. Or so there's the question I asked, that what is that footprint that you want to live in this world, right? Yeah. Do you want to be just known as that so-and-so worked in so-and-so companies for 20, 25 years? Is that your footprint? What is your really footprint that you want to leave to the world? And if you're destined for something completely different, that purpose, that's what you need to follow. Yeah. And for me, when I did not imagine to be an entrepreneur. I just wanted to create that passive income so that my family, especially my kids, are supported for their education, right? Yeah. And rental real estate was not doing that properly. So I was looking for something else. And as I started getting into it, instead of me being passive, I decided to be an entrepreneur. Thinking outside the box has been my personality. So think outside the box came naturally.
So good. Such a great
name. Thank you. And I was hesitant about it. But I was driven by that education. I was driven by, bringing this out of the box, out of the stock opportunity to my community that I come from, who are working hard, coming to this country, saving every dollar, and have no clue, absolutely no clue about what's happening, how wealthy is becoming wealthy, and how they're not paying taxes, and how these people who are my community, literally every dollar more extra earned, they're adding more money to Uncle Sam's pocket. Right. So that's the restlessness. That's the purpose actually drove me to create that company, right? To think outside the stocks. Yep. So there are ups and downs in an entrepreneur journey. I do not deny that. But I try to kind of refocus my pointer back to the purpose. And I ask myself a question that if I don't do this, and I'm supposed to impact these 5-10 families, I'm doing disservice to them by not doing it. Totally. So that's the mission that I'm driven by. My mission.
I just kept thinking of that. The last 5 minutes you were talking, I'm like, Madhavi's on a mission. You're on a mission here to educate your community in your words and share the opportunities here that you've uncovered and learned for yourself.
Yeah, and my mission, Tate, and I put it in a box, right? Even it's outside the box. My mission is to change financial trajectory of one family at a time, and thousands more to go. And I wish it become thousand and more, and probably millions, right? And Tate, I'm talking about that 2-degree change, right? We travel, we take flight path. If that 2-degree change, if you start a flight from whatever Austin to going to Seattle, that 2-degree path will completely land you in different location, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's the financial trajectory. That's the change I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I believe that these two strategies, the twofold structure that I implement, the one is a saving strategy and other is the investing strategy, which, by the way, I do in the commercial real estate diversified asset classes. Yeah. I think that has this power. It has a tremendous power to not only diversify outside the stocks, but to save on those taxes and create that generational wealth, right? So people often in investing world think about, okay, what is my IRR? What is the annual returns? What is my equity multiple? But I ask them that, that's kind of being in a pond and thinking like a frog, and you just see the problems around you, the water, the leaves, the stones, right? But you got to be an eagle. You got to have, kind of step up a little from a completely different perspective. And as you change the perspective, now definitely your problems are different and your solutions are different. Right. So for me, I always insist on not just the investing, but to grow, preserve, protect, and pass your generational wealth. So that's my eagle's eye perspective. That's my outside the box perspective and outside the stocks perspective for my investors.
Yeah, so good. All right, there's so much we could go into with, just with everything you've already shared, but I want to highlight really like what it is specifically that you're up to today, and what you kind of already mentioned it in the commercial real estate side of things, and you educate on the saving side of things. Just kind of give us a high level picture of like what you're up to today and what you're creating.
Absolutely, Ted. So on the savings side, I believe in that kind of the banking, create your own banking system, because there are multiple advantages to it. I talk about it in a lot of detail in my education series. But essentially, you can contribute. Think about your 401k, for example, right? You and me don't believe in 401k so much, but you can contribute to this without any limit. You can create your own limit. Your money grows tax-free inside it. You can borrow from it without disturbing that compounded snowball growth. And like I said, I believe in that compounding of the money constantly, right? So you can keep on continuously doing that compounded growth. And if you want to invest now, it's called an and asset. You can borrow from it, and you can actually invest directly into the investments like real estate investment, right? Commercial real estate. So your money is making that your money is making that compounded growth inside the banking system, but the same dollar can be utilized in the commercial real estate or any of the investments that you want to use. On the commercial investment side, the diversification is really important. Because not only, I started with multifamily like you, but just where the recession is going, that's a trifecta that we are sitting on, right? There's a recession, the high inflation, and also the high interest rates, right? And that's the reason, one of the people I believe in is Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins during COVID taught us to pivot and do things differently. So that's the pivot that I'm applying in my investing strategy, that instead of just focusing on the multifamily and diversifying in different asset classes of the multifamily, how about commercial real estate, especially those which are recession resistant, right? So I'm looking for partnering with best-in-class partners. I do thorough due diligence so that I'm not only providing just the education, but these opportunities are the best-in-class opportunities to my investors as well, right? So with that, say for example, in my fund model, and my fund model is very interesting. When it comes to fund, right, typically people think that, it's going to be a blind pool fund, that my choice of investing in what asset class or what property is going to be taken away. But in my fund model, there's an out of the box situation there as well, that investor can actually come and pick and choose whatever investments they want and how much money wants to be allocated to that particular investment. So that's I call it my mantra, that your investments, your choice. You can select to be in the savings, you can select to be in the investing, pick any asset class that you want. And now you can create your own blended performance. And blended performance seems like a strong word, but think about it. If it is a ground up development, it's just equity. There is no cash flow. Yep. If there is like a multifamily, a self-storage, there is a blend of a cash flow and the equity at the end. And if there is something like an ATM investment, which we have in our fund, which is an ongoing investment, which is really heavy on cash, but there is no equity or principal at the end. So it goes about 24% or so cash on cash, 7 years, and it just stops, right? So now you can create your blended performance based on what life situation you are in. Mm-hmm. If you have lost the job, or if you're thinking of partially moving to that passive income, you can go high cash flow. If you have those two W-2 jobs, two jobs especially, you don't need any cash flow, you're looking for net worth increase, go for the equity play in the ground up construction. Or if you want to stay comfortable in the middle, look for something which gives you both. So that's my strategy for my investors as they come in. I talk to them about the importance of savings, because trust me, more and more entrepreneurs especially do not have the savings account, that emergency fund. And instead of you keeping that emergency fund in the bank account, which is volatile institution, also you pay taxes on that interest that you're earning. I help them to create this banking structure. And if they want to invest at the same time in the real estate, they could do that. Mm-hmm. So it's not it's an or. They could do the banking, they could do the investing, or they could do the both. So that's essentially what I'm helping my investors with.
Right. Do you just have one fund that people can participate in at this point? Yeah. Okay. And
so that one fund itself brings in different asset classes. So they can, in that one fund, they actually have multiple choices. So if I bring in 10 investments next year and somebody just wants to participate in 3 of them, they can literally pick that 3 investments and allocate that, okay, this one goes 50K, this one goes 75K, and this one 100K. They can allocate the money and bring money only when that particular investment comes in. So it's very similar to, having an asset and you bringing that asset directly to the investment.
Sure. Yeah. So on your end of things, how does that compare, and why is it advantageous for you and what you're trying to get done, as opposed to just sourcing those same projects and just, bringing capital to each one? Is it efficiency? How does that all work?
I really like the fund model because, I'm a very kind of rules-driven person. And, when I want to come in I see myself as a bridge between great operators, great investments, and the investors, right? Yeah. I take time to educate my investors. I take time to, tell them what questions to ask and, kind of getting them to that level to make them comfortable. And I'm also the person that could do that due diligence, that underwriting, the financials, the market analysis. So I'm very data-driven person, right? So I can bring those investments too. At the same time, my limitation is still my health, right? So I'm not so focused on the operations. I struggle with my chronic health even today, even when we met at the conference. So that kind of helps me to be what I'm passionate about, to change people's life by providing that education. Yeah. And I look at it that even for operators, right, that's helping, because if I can bring more money to them, they can, work a little bit faster. They don't have to worry about, bringing that money every investment, right? So I kind of see myself as a bridge. And, by utilizing my services, I don't want to charge anything to investors or, don't want them to have impact. So I come in as a big check writer. So in these days, the operators have become very, very savvy about the fund of fund model, which is essentially creating a separate class of, say, $500K or $1 million, where I write from my fund that check, and that check goes to the operator directly. I get better terms, and that's the piece that I keep it as a fund manager. But my effort is that my retail investors either get the same deal if they went directly to the operator,
Right.
or get a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
And by being that, I'm able to kind of communicate better with my operators as well as my investors, and I think that helps me to be in that particular situation.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I have had in past that I have participated in the investments where my investors got fed into the system, and they started kind of receiving those deals directly from them, right?
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing the due diligence, and they quite often come and ask me that, Madhavi, is this a good investment? And I say that without the financials, without the underwriting, without knowing everything about it, I cannot say that to you that whether this is a good investment, whether it's from the same operator.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives me the flexibility, yet the control of being independent and still partner with different teams, especially those teams which I have worked well in a period of times. I have also done the asset management, by the way. And this team I have worked with is tremendous. I mean, great friends, tremendous ethics, and first preference, first priorities, investors. We always had our investors, and we took decisions for our investors as a first priority. So that's what I'm looking at. And these are the questions, are the information access typically a 50,000 investor may not even have. I try to run background checks on my operators. So that's kind of a shielded place for my investors, I feel. I still encourage them to do their due diligence, because it's not like that I'm doing the due diligence. That means that, they should just go blindly on any investments. They should have the, that way to grid to make their own decisions.
Sure. What about the presentation to to LP investors that you're looking to bring in to the fund? Do you find Greenlight, my company, we've raised, I don't know, for 12 different projects probably now of our own. And we've never not raised for each project individually, right? So in other words, each project is its own offering. It's 506C usually. And it's closed. Once it's done, it's closed, blah, blah, blah. I think the whole thing about a confused mind says no, especially as an investor, is very true. So keeping things understandable for people and making it easy for them to get their heads around what you're up to and what the opportunity is really crucial. So, and I'm sure you're very good at it because you're an educator amongst other things. So how do you do that? How do you what's the presentation like? Do you do webinars? How does that all work?
So podcast is definitely the number one thing. When I started my podcast, if you look back and see my first few episodes, I did like a short course. So I did few episodes back to back, 15 to 20 minutes. And I just kind of built on it. And, from rental, being a landlord, how can they gradually go to being a syndicated investment, right? A passive investor. What is really that, the curves in that road, in that path. So I address that. I also do webinars. These podcasts are also video podcasts. So I have like a presentation. I love presentations coming from the consulting world. If I could make things more simple and visual, that's my superpower. I really love making things simple. And as you can imagine, and I kind of invite you to even learn about infinite banking, because I have simplified that education a lot. I talk about in any areas, in whether it's syndication, the real estate investments, or the infinite banking. I talk about the problems first, and then I talk about the solution, because I feel that without understanding the problem, you cannot understand the solution. So for me, the education is always the first feet forward. That's what I do for my investors, whether it comes to the new asset class, whether it comes to the new investment. I take a look at it. I kind of look at what are the pros and cons of this investment. What are the questions and information that investors should know about it. And in that, webinar, I address that. I tell them that I highlight those points, even if the actual sponsor is not highlighting it, right? So the webinars is definitely, I also have the YouTube channel where I have these webinars and all the podcast episode, the video episodes. Sometimes it's combination of the video and the actual presentation, and I believe that strongly.
Yeah, having the multimedia thing is great. I mean, I obviously do that too, and just the ability that you have to really make a profound impact on people, and especially from the education space, and just steering them towards good opportunities and towards good concepts, right? Like good visions for their future and that sort of thing. But so for listeners, you want to go to www.thinkoutsideTheStocks.com and check out everything that Madhavi has there in the way of value. ThinkOutsideTheStocks.com/passive. Obviously, that's for passive investors. If you want to learn about I would think the fund would be described in that page. Is that correct?
So if you go to ThinkOutsideTheStocks/passive, that's actually my ebook, which is active income with passive syndicated real estate investments. And I call it that, the passive income on autopilot, because that's the way I look at it, right? And, we were talking about the education to investors. One of the things I'm focusing on is the video forms, because, there is so much mindless scrolling that goes on. So I'm also focusing on creating those short videos so that they can learn more about it. But if they go to the website, there is a lot of information around it. They can schedule a call directly with me, or they can also go to bit.ly and call think. And, schedule a call with me so that I get to know. I love knowing people, what their goals are, what their objectives are, and creating this kind of commingled approach, how we can do it together.
Yeah. So for listeners, that was bit.ly/call-think. So CALLTHINK to set up a time to connect personally with Madhavi, which I think would be a great idea for all of you to, Madhavi's doing things differently than a lot of people, and she's thinking outside the box, right? And that's her thing. So, and obviously I'm here to help any way I can. So, you can always reach out to me. Investwithgreenlight.com is our webpage, and everything you need to reach me is there. Set an appointment with me to just pick my brain and bounce ideas off of me or whatever. But both Madhavi and I are here to serve and help. We love helping people grow and catch a new vision for what's possible for them. That lights us up, and it's authentic for both of us, and it just makes what we do meaningful and fun and fulfilling. One of the things that, just to kind of come a little bit full circle, you were talking about your mission, educating your community, and you had I think when the board mission finally came out, you said it like 3 times in a row, and of course I was excited about it because I was already thinking that. To me, like even deeper than mission is the power of purpose, right? The power of being deeply connected to your purpose in life, and that can be anything. That can look, for 8 billion different people, there's going to be 8 billion different versions of that. But it just occurred to me in really this whole session with you and getting to learn from you and collaborate here on this. You're a very purpose driven person, and you're very principled. I was in on a couple meetings that you led over in New Orleans. Right. With talking about the fund to fund model, and you're a leader and very principled, and you have you're strict. Like you've got criteria that you're going to meet with that sponsor group that you're going to invest with, and you're not going to compromise. And so it's great. You're a wonderful example and leader in our space. And I know our not so little mastermind group is really is blessed to have you as part of it, and you're just a huge contribution. You're very front and center in the whole thing. So So, yeah.
Thank you so much, Tate. That means so much to me. And, what I am, and that's what, if I can't be I'm going to feel dry doing this, right? That's that returned back to me.
Yeah.
And that's why I just love to stay authentic. What I am. You just get what I am right away. So I think, I admire that reading of my personality. And that's what, I'm just here, that purpose driven to change and leave that impact. And again, to listeners, ask yourself, what is that impact? What is that purpose that drives you? Yeah. And Tate, you are doing such a great job, and you are being an inspiration to knowing you has been tremendous, really. And I, when I see people like me, I really get excited about it. Yeah. And that's how I feel, knowing you. So I think that's really important. Listeners, just grow with people like you that resonate with you. Right?
Grow
that's
with really important. Totally. It's such a great way of summarizing and putting it, is like, double down on the, when you have somebody in your life, whether it's professional, personal, and they make you feel good and they add value to you, and you feel good because you get to add value to them, which gives you a sense of purpose and meaning in that side of that relationship. Like, double, triple down on those opportunities, right? Like, and on the flip side, like, when people aren't serving you, and we all know people, we've all had many people in our lives like that, fire them early and often is my advice. And sometimes you can't, sometimes it's not quite that simple, like, say, with family, right? But, but nonetheless, like, we're each responsible for the content of our lives, right? And part of that is very much is the relationships that we have with people. And so to be proactive about eliminating toxicity, and to be proactive about doubling down and amplifying the positivity and the growth and the connections and the shared values and shared goals and objectives, all that stuff, like, that's powerful. And that's really, like, what ultimately I think shapes our reality. Again, back to this relationship thing, this is relational, right? And so you are creating your reality in every conversation you have with people. I'll close with this. I had a mentor, Matthew Ferry's my guy, and I've been working with him on and off since 2007. He looked at me one time and he said, "Tate, man, life's just a series of conversations." And,
so very well said.
Yeah, right. If you think about it, it's true, especially like if you kind of micro our space and our industry, everything happens inside of a conversation. Deals get done, deals get funded, deals,
absolutely,
due diligence gets done. You partner up, like, everything's a conversation. So, and everything's a relationship. So, the better you are at really nurturing, developing those really high level quality connections, man, you will change your reality, and you'll change what's possible for you. And in 5 years, you won't even recognize life if you really do it well. So anyway,
wow, very, very well said, Ted. Very, very well said. It's a life is a conversation and connection. We are not in the business of real estate. We are in a business of connections. Absolutely. 100%.
100%. No doubt. Well, wonderful, wonderful stuff, Madhavi. And I just encourage listeners again to go to thinkoutsideTheStocks.com, go listen to the podcast. She's got a very unique message here that's kind of multidimensional between savings and investing, which is a very different kind of approach, I think, to a podcast and to an education platform. So go connect and then go get her done, right? So.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, it's such a fun conversation. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really, really enjoyed this discussion. Sometimes the podcasts are, don't go as like something like this. I really love the way you bring in this energy. Thank you so much again for bringing me as a guest.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And thank you for your contribution here and for adding value to my listeners and to me and listeners. Thank you. You guys are, you're just a huge, wonderful part of this and make this very meaningful for me and very fulfilling. And I love hearing from you guys. I love connecting with you guys. I love helping you guys any way I can. We've got, I do coaching. We have a mastermind, there's lots of possibility and us collaborating on deals. But the key is the relationship, right? We got to get that in place and then the magic starts to happen. So awesome stuff. Madhavi, thanks again. Really great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Listeners, thank you. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you on the next episode of The Apartment Gurus. Take care, everybody.
This has been The Apartment Gurus with Tate Siemer. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. To contact Tate, go to www.investwithgreenlight.com for access to his investor portal and Calendly link. He loves to hear from you and thanks you for being a valued listener. Just a reminder that you are the guru. See you on the next episode of The Apartment Gurus.